It is time for our daily news review today. We're going to be taking a look at what's making headlines around the world this morning. Let's begin with one of the Greek papers, Ekaterini, online. It's reporting on the 11th hour list of reforms that the country has put forward to its creditors. Their proposals include pension savings and tax increases.
To the Wall Street Journal, and a rare backlash against China's President Xi Jinping over the nation's stock market crash. The paper reports some are now questioning the president's forceful rule and economic goals.
The Chinese markets feature in the Financial Times too. It has leaders from a high-level summit for emerging economies warning of financial instability because of turbulence on the mainland and also that crisis in Greece.
The New York Times website reports that more than 21 million Americans have been caught up in a breach of government computer systems, far more than previously thought.
3,000 Britons are being told to leave Tunisia, with the UK government saying that a further terrorist attack is highly likely. It comes after 38 tourists were killed in a gun attack last month. More on that in The Guardian.
And we end with a family outing for the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge as Prince George joined them for the christening of Princess Charlotte. The photos in the Daily Telegraph.
Well, joining us to look through some of those stories is business mentor David Carter. Good morning, David.
Good morning.
Thanks for being with us. Greece. Let's begin with Greece. Not the first time we've done that over the last few weeks, but it is all over the newspapers because these deadlines are approaching. We had the deadline last night for them to submit the proposal. That's going to then be discussed. And I guess the interesting thing is that what's on the table again seems to be very similar to what was on the table a couple of weeks ago.
A month ago, really. No change. I think that we're now down to the 11th and a half hour. I think that we've got lots of massive stakeholders around the world who want this resolved now. We've got the US government getting involved yesterday saying we don't want the disruption to the global economy, please sort it out. We've got Germany sort of saying no to no more borrowing unless there are absolute reforms that tie in with our way of thinking. I think the French want to keep the whole euro together, whatever. But I think that the reforms that are going to be required to actually solve this problem long term, rather than immediately to get an extension of their banking, is really what the work the Greek government needs to work on.
And apparently they've had French officials with them in Athens trying to lay out all those proposals and put the plan together.
I heard yesterday that since Greece joined the euro, tourism to Greece has halved because of the price that the drachma went into the euro. That's been a massive, devastating effect on the economy. 65% of 20 to 30-year-olds in Greece are unemployed. But of course, the black economy in Greece is a terrible problem, and we need to figure out a way to get those people paying tax rather than to necessarily charge the people who are paying tax more. So I think the reforms aren't just tweaking VAT here and there, they're actually cultural reforms we need to look at as well.
The other aspect, I suppose, is I do wonder, the referendum that we had at the weekend saying no, and a resounding no, 60% to 40%, and yet nothing's changed really. So you wonder what that was for and whether it was just incredibly disruptive.
Well,
because effectively the Prime Minister's going back to the people and saying, well, actually, you said no, but we're going to have to carry out the same things that I said we didn't want to do.
Yes, and so when I was here last month, we talked about how long he might last if he didn't end up, getting something that was what the Greek people wanted and what the creditors were going to allow. So
well, perhaps that was what the referendum was about, shoring up his position in a way, but as you say...
We'll have to see if the gamble pays off on Sunday. OK, so of course Greece has been causing turbulence in the stock markets, but also so has the situation in China. And we have criticism, which has been picked out by the Wall Street Journal, of President Xi Jinping's approach, really, to finance and the way it works in China. What do you take from this?
I think actually this article and the next one, which we'll obviously come to in a second, are kind of linked. But I think that the Chinese stock market has lost a third of its value over the course of the last month or so. But over the last year or so, the reason that the Chinese authorities wanted the stock market to do so well is because they've been trying to deleverage all of the companies in the Chinese economy. And so they wanted the stock market to do well to swap highly leveraged balance sheets for equity funded balance sheets. So the fact now that that equity has fallen in value by 30% has caused huge alarm to investors.
And there's this banning of short selling, which is
Yes.
where investors can profit from a falling market, which is being brought in by the authorities.
So banning of short selling, there's been a record number of companies who've suspended their shares, and also I think yesterday a new rule was put in place that any company that had any shareholder had an investment of more than 5% was restricted from selling their shares.
Yeah, and I guess that the fact that, there has been some criticism, even within China, of the way the president's handled this, shows how desperate they were to stop this. I mean, people were talking about, at any cost, basically, they had to stop the slide.
Well, but I think, the Chinese economy is highly leveraged. I mean, it's very highly leveraged. And the stock market is the only way to bring down that leverage. So to have the volatility in the Chinese stock market that it's had this year is really damaging the economic vision of the Premier, who's made it very clear that part of his agenda during his tenure is for a growing economy, growing stock market, growing confidence in financial markets.
And this is concentrating minds as well at the BRICS summit, isn't it? Where, of course, people
Absolutely.
are very worried about the impact on commodities because, of course, many of the BRICS countries major commodity producers, and there's been a slide in prices, hasn't there?
I think that it's interesting how all of our stories this morning are so linked, but...
Which do you think is the biggest threat, Greece or the Chinese stock market to the world economy? I mean, that's what people are debating, aren't they? We've all been focused on Greece, and actually perhaps it's China that's going to, cause the biggest problem.
In my opinion, I think the Chinese potential for impact on global markets is 100 times bigger than Greece. A huge economy that really does have massive impact all around the world that we just can't underestimate.
Now, another impact that there's been in Washington, in the New York Times, highlights the hacking of government computers, which has exposed more than 21 million people. It's a worrying story, isn't it?
I caught up on this story at the end of last night. United Airlines grounded all flights yesterday. The New York subway was closed for hours. There were lots of distracting, I think, spoofs whilst this major theft was going on. 21.5 million people's records
a lot of data,
stolen.
Isn't it? And a link to actually China again, because that's what the chatter is. Was it Chinese hackers? I mean, they've denied it, of course, but
they've denied it. But of course, all of the American anti-hackers can pinpoint exactly where it came from. But unfortunately, this isn't without precedent. This is a repeated exercise that now goes on almost on a weekly basis.
And there's concerns about conventional terrorism warnings as well in Tunisia, with 3,000 Britons warned to get out of the country. That's going to be another blow to tourism there, isn't it?
2 months ago, I think there were 30,000 British people on average in Tunisia every week on holiday. At the moment, it's down to 2,500 to 3,000 this week, understandably. Massive blow to tourism. But I think, with the cyber attacks we were just talking about, which are huge and massive around the world, I think it's still great that we still have intelligence on the ground in the old-fashioned way that can warn British tourists that they should come home because it's not safe. And I think everyone who's out there should pay attention and get on a plane and come home.
Quite an operation getting all those people out over the next few days.
Absolutely, the
Flights
planes
all
are
this
already
weekend.
leaving.
Yeah.
I think it's only 8 to 10 planes though, so...
So they'll be home probably by the end of the weekend. On a brighter note,
Lovely story.
I don't know whether
Lovely
you're a fan of the
picture.
Royals.
Yeah, I'm a very big fan. Very big fan.
All those pictures, 4 pictures emerged, I think, Kensington Palace
All
released.
taken by Mario Testino, and I actually went to one of his photographic exhibitions of Diana, Princess of Wales, all the pictures he took, because, of course, there was a big family link, isn't there, throughout the whole
Princess
Christmas.
Diana's favourite photographer,
Absolutely.
I think. Yeah.
Everywhere I go around the world on business, everybody loves this family, this couple, and I think they're such an amazing couple. They're such a fantastic pair of ambassadors for Britain, and all around the world, everybody loves them. And I think this is so lovely to see a traditional family photograph. They're obviously come
Released
across
on
as
Twitter, seems to be a
great
trend.
parents.
And lots of people drawing attention to Princess Charlotte's clenched fists and drawing all sorts of conclusions about what a determined character she's going to be. I'm not sure how you can draw that conclusion, but
Very
anyway,
determined, I think, I'm
everyone
sure.
seems to have noticed that. David, many thanks for joining us
Thank
this
you.
morning. David Carter there.
Thank you.
That's it for our look at the news this morning. Have a great day.
Lots more business coming up as well.
Yeah, we'll see you
Goodbye.
soon. Bye-bye.